Welcome to the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Forum. I'm Jackie Edwards Walton, and I'm one of the conveners along with Laura McClellan, who's sitting back in my spot today. You know, it's like church. She's in my seat. And we have other facilitators here today. We have Steve Johnston. We have Shay Abdullah. They're our technician folk. We have Thomas Moore, our musician. Natalie McElrath. Who else? And we have Collins here. I know his first name. I can't remember right now though. Robert Collins. And we have Winston Robinson. And we have Tina Marshall. And others will be coming in later. We will open up first with prayer.
Good morning. It's unfortunate Gary's not here this morning because he's outnumbered by Eagles. So there you go. Everybody know Eagle Pride this morning. So that goes for Mr. Ross. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you once again for this opportunity to be in your presence, Lord. Lord, we thank you for bringing us here, assembling us as a community to hear the information that's going to be shared by our county manager, Lord. Lord, we thank you for the work that he's done and that he continues to do, Lord. We know that true fulfillment comes from being in service to others. So we thank you for his ministry and all that he does. And as we do each and every week, Lord, we ask that you just continue to bless this great forum, Lord, and these facilitators that give tirelessly of their time each and every week to bring us productive and constructive programming that will help advance our community. These and other blessings we ask in your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much. We'd like to welcome each of you here this morning. We know that we have a treat. Some of the guidelines would be, we would ask that you would lower the volume or turn off your devices. We will have persons coming in and out. They know the rules. They will not be disruptive. It will go as it should go. As we go, we're going to do a presentation for about 20 minutes. And for those who have questions after the presentation, you have 30 seconds to ask your question. We have a timekeeper here, Natalie McElrath, and she has signs. So pay attention to her and to the signs. And our manager, you have about 2 minutes at the beginning to answer those questions. I think we covered almost everything.
First timer.
Absolutely. Those who've been here, who have not been here before, would you stand and just give us your name?
If you haven't been here before, throw a hand up, and I'm gonna come around with the microphone so you can introduce yourself. All right, let me start right here. I'm coming back around. Give us your name, how you got here, and like they do with the kids, give us a fun fact about yourself.
Let's take those 2 things.
I'll be very quick. My name is LaShawn Carter. I'm assistant county manager, and I'm a Buckeye.
Up the old house.
Good morning. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Alicia Grant, and like my brother Ross said, I own a sports league here in Charlotte. Been here for, the sports league has been here for over 8 years now. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Ebony Lewis. I am the county in the Office of Equity and Inclusion. It's nice to be here. Good morning, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you so much, appreciate that. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing to us today our county manager. We've known each other a minute, and I think we first met with NFBPA. We served on the same during the same term. But so happy to have him here today. He's one of those folks that when you're first meeting, you know how the young woman who came last week, Allison, and you see promise, y'all know what I'm talking about? That's the way I felt about you when I first met you, when you were in kind of an analyst.
I was an analyst.
When you was an analyst, and you know, just so happy to see folk who have that in them become what they are called to do. And I don't generally get emotional or personal, but I will share with you. I do love Michael Bryant. I do, and I'm happy to have him here today.
Oh, come here. I love you too, Miss Jackson. Okay, I got a little tear in my eye. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Before I begin my presentation, y'all bear with me because I gotta express gratitude. A couple of things. Number one, my dear good friend, sister, Miss Jackie Walton. We go back a couple of decades. She's right. NFPPA stands for National Forum for Black Folk Administrators. I was serving as president, and she blessed me by serving as a member of my cabinet back then, and the rest is history. Couple of firsts. So, one, thank you for inviting me back. The Sarah Stevens Tuesday Forum will always hold a special place in my heart because when I was sworn in as manager over a year ago, this is the first public presentation that I made. So I'm grateful that you all were, I guess, crazy enough to have me come back a year later. But seriously, every time that I watch some of your presentations online, whatever, it always takes me back to my special moment, being my first experience presentation as county manager. And then also, I want to shout out my team. Every time I have an opportunity to express my appreciation to my team, I do that. And I always begin by saying I have the most talented workforce in the country. And a few of them are here, so you guys please stand. They're being recognized as well from Susan, you want a paycheck, stand. Marcus, thank you all for being here as well. And it's not just about supporting me, but it's about Mecklenburg County having a connection in the community. This is why you see these individuals here, not just because of Mike Bryant. When I promoted LaShawn to his role as assistant county manager, it was an intentional move on my part because I wanted to make sure, I can't be everywhere at all times, right? But it's important that the county has a presence in the community. And LaShawn has done a wonderful job in that role, and he was doing that before, so it was an easy decision in terms of who I wanted to put in this new position that I created as assistant county manager, and he's supported by a great team as well. So with that, I'll start my presentation. I know I have 20 minutes, give me 23 minutes and 30 seconds if you don't mind. Because I was asked to cover two things. One, highlighting my first year as manager, and number two, my first budget as manager. Some of you all know I've been with the organization for 24 years. Over that span of time, it was inclusive of me serving as budget director. This is my first budget as county manager that I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish as an organization with the support of our county commission. I don't have a clicker, so let's begin with the year. Phenomenal year, it flew by. A lot of highlights, a lot of accomplishments, things that I'm proud of, but certainly it was also accompanied with challenges. And here are some of the challenges that you all may be familiar with. First, ISIS. We have visits, not once, but on multiple occasions from ISIS coming in. Several challenges associated with that, particularly to our organization. Those individuals that were concerned about ISIS presence decided not to go to work, right? Some didn't go to school. And when you think about county operations, one of those impacts were tied to our construction, our capital improvement plan. Some of our major projects fell behind. The county is responsible for parks, libraries, government facilities, Central Piedmont Community Colleges, and funding CMS, and that was one of the impacts that we had, a challenge associated with ISIS presence. We had some inclement weather, that medic vehicle represents that. County operations were closed for a couple of days. We still have some challenging weather this week, with the hot temperatures as well. So we have our shelters open. You all know about the House Oversight Committee. Some of you all say that the most challenging experience I had in my over 30 years doing this, because based on the legal consultation that I received in preparing for that oversight committee, we wanted to be sure that there will be a conviction. And as you all know, last week, district attorney announced that he is seeking the death penalty for the aunt of the young lady, Moody, that unfortunately transitioned as well. So as challenging as it was, I'm pleased to see that those charges have come forward. The MPTA, huge accomplishment that we're proud of. You saw the community come together to set their differences aside with a shared goal to pass this new sales tax, which funds the expansion of our transit system. So excited about that, honored to serve as a member of the Board of Trustees. These two here are related. The U.S. government shutdown, the longest federal government shutdown in history. We experienced that. Part of that impact was the delay on the SNAP benefits, food stamp benefits. That's what that represented in the middle. On my far left, the field hearing regarding crime in Charlotte, Mecklenburg. We hosted that field hearing featuring the federal government that was tied to the unfortunate tragedy associated with Arena, which is about a year. The anniversary is Thursday, I believe. And then here we had the point of time count, where we have 24,000 neighbors that are homeless in this community. And of that 24,000, about 730 of them are experiencing chronic homelessness. And actually, when we did the point of time count, we unfortunately found someone that was deceased as well because they did not have housing. So a lot of challenges there. But as you see, we always rise to the moment as a community and organization. This here reflects in the upper right-hand corner some of our teen camps that we have. The Grady Code Center represents how we responded to the inclement weather by providing shelter. Here at the bottom, we held a drive-through in response to the SNAP freeze of giving out food boxes and bags of food to those individuals that were not receiving their benefits. Had a huge turnout for that. In the center, Commissioner Dunlap, he serves as national president for an association that counties across this entire country are affiliated with. It's the National Association of Counties. There's 3,069 counties across this country, and the president of that association is right here in Mecklenburg County. Here in the upper left-hand corner is our efforts to elevate our presence at the federal level. This is a snapshot of our meeting with Congresswoman Alma Adams. And then the left-hand corner, one of the things that I'm really proud of that we're able to do, even before we kicked off the budget, was to create an initiative to focus on addressing the homeless issues, addressing the crime, This is a picture that represents Catherine Simmons, located in West Charlotte. If you're familiar with Catherine Simmons, there's a lot of attention that needs to be given to that area. We were able to pull our resources together, a little less than $1 million, to address the homeless issues, some of the crime issues, and other social issues that are going on in that area as well. So that's how we responded. Shifting to the budget, being mindful of time. So I want to level set here in terms of the experiences and challenges that we were facing as I prepared my recommended budget for the board's consideration. The county dollar growth. This is the dollars I have available to support county services was steadily declining. Federal funding changes present a further drain on available funds. HB1, some other legislative decisions that were made caused issues. And although we were seeing a decline in our revenue, we were seeing a spike in the demand of services. A year ago, we had 157 residents moving here each day. Most recently, the number has dropped somewhat, but it's still a large number. We're now at 138 individuals moving to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg region. That number, certainly a subset of them need county services. And just like any other organizational budget, we see a slight increase in our personnel and operating dollars. And we're facing a $36 million deficit. So in response to that, I rolled out what I call an organizational reset plan, focused on our culture, focused on succession planning. In my organization, I have 700 employees that can retire as soon as next week. Wow. And these are employees that are in critical leadership roles. Myself, a couple of my deputy county managers, our county attorney, also members of my cabinet, in other words, department heads. We have to address that through succession planning with my HR department. My capital budget, I press pause on that. Capital budget represents the dollars associated with building our infrastructure, our facilities, again, for Park and Rec, the courts, the school system, community colleges, and public library. I recommitted the organization to performance management and conducted a deep dive assessment on our $2.5 billion budget. This just outlines how I redefined our budget process. And this was a behavior shift for me as well. As I mentioned, I served as budget director for about 5 years, and then also other key roles in the department. I had to reprogram how I think as well, so that we could work through the challenges that I just outlined, beginning with facing the $36 million deficit, redesigned the budget process, conducted a deep dive on our budget. This is something that we hadn't done in some time. Also, by working with my departments on this deep dive assessment, we were able to identify $38 million in revenue that I can utilize to fund other services. I'll touch on that shortly. And as I stated earlier, I initiated a pause, and this $31 million, because I pressed pause on our capital improvement plan, I was able to shift $31 million from our debt service account, the account that we utilize to pay our credit card, to pay for the debt associated with capital. I was able to shift that over to provide additional funding to support the operating budget. So the headlines, a little Charlotte Observer, thank you for being here. The headlines that was reported when the board adopted the budget was no property tax rate increase, and also we fully funded CMS. And that was all factual. However, there's so much more in this budget that I and our commission is proud of. This slide, real quick, it shares with you the challenges and the dip that we've experienced with our natural growth in terms of revenue that I have available to support county services. In fiscal year 23, the percent of growth was 5.4. In 24, it went up a notch to 5.8%. And then you see the dip. Went from 5.8% to 4% to 3.5 to 2.5. Now, that 2.5 equates to about $47 million, which is good. However, a few years ago, we had double that in terms of dollars available, right? So that's challenge number one. Again, 135 people moving here, increase in demand, fewer dollars to support that growth. This slide here shows the change in county dollars from a funding perspective. If you look at the teal shaded columns, that shows the natural growth. So 23, 63 million, 24 up to 81 million, 25, 66, 41, and 39 million in fiscal year 27, what we projected. The lime color represents the years that we had a property tax rate increase. This is why, partly why, I did not recommend a tax rate increase. I guess this observer, when I heard the name Manager Mike, I'm a little happy about that, but it's because I did not recommend a tax rate increase after facing that $36 million deficit. If you look at 24, we raised taxes here in the line, we earned about another $17 million. The tax rate increase in 26 generated nearly $30 million. When I build budgets, I look at a multi-year lens. I don't look at it at an individual fiscal year. So we raised taxes the last couple of years over the last 3-year period. And then also, as you know, the voters approved the bond referendum for CMS, which is voter-approved debt. There's a tax rate increase that's scheduled for next year. And then there's one a couple more years out. Then I felt from a fiscal responsibility standpoint that if I'm in a position not to raise taxes for 27, that I need to do that. And thank goodness I was able to avoid a tax rate increase. This $31 million represents the shift that I made from the debt service fund that I mentioned, that savings account, to the operating fund. So that gave me a total of $70 million to work with in building the budget. And that's what that represents here. That 69.8 is the natural growth of $39 million plus the $30 million in shifting the penny, giving me $69 million, a little short of $70 million to work with. Projected fund balance. I also leverage the flexibility that we have regarding fund balance. Just think about your savings account. This is more so for one-time expenses. You don't want to utilize fund balance for reoccurring expenses like paying for salaries. As you see here, Mecklenburg County has built a healthy fund balance reserve. Why did we do that? If you were here during the Great Recession, 2008, 2009, you may recall the challenge that we had. Number one, we had to close our facilities, Park and Rec and the library. We had to change the hours. We had to close down some of those facilities. We had to lay off employees as well. That was not a good time and a good experience for Mecklenburg County back then. But we committed to making sure that when we experience another fiscal crisis, a downturn on the economy, we are better positioned to respond. And that's what this represents. $547 million in fiscal year 20. So there's a minimum threshold. This darker part of the column represents what I am required to maintain in our fund balance account. That represents about 28% of our total revenue. This teal color, along with this dark green color, represents what is above that minimum requirement that I have available to allocate in the budget to support other expenses. So shifting to projected fiscal year 26, we had 436 that I had to maintain in the savings account and a total of $198 million. Of that $198 million, I included $100 million in the budget to provide, again, more flexibility in funding services, leaving $98 million above the threshold. This just represents the total budget with all the revenue sources. The bulk of the county revenue is property taxes. Next is sales tax. That summarizes the steps I took with my deep dive budget assessment. And this is what we were able to glean from that deep dive review. Other post-employment benefits trust There was some flexibility in that count for me to utilize $8.5 million to go towards county operations. Department revenue, after scrubbing their actual trends, we're able to bump up department revenue by $7 million. The biggest, most notable change that you may have some familiarity with is our nonprofit funding, where I shifted $6.6 million of funding, annual funding to nonprofits from our general fund to that savings account, fund balance as well. So that freed up $6.6 million. Child care subsidies, $4 million, that was unused subsidies. I hate to say unused because the need is there, but there was still some underspending that we're experiencing based on the third-party administrator. Various adjustments of $5.4 million. Our child development accounts of $3 million. This is an initiative, I guess, speaking shortly, if you're familiar with the Trump accounts and those deposits that are supposed to be made associated with that, well, to Assistant County Manager Carter's credit, he was working on an initiative well in advance of that to make deposits in Mecklenburg County for our families and to increase the likelihood of them attending school. So that $3 million was set aside, and the $3.7 million as well. We were able to identify positions that were able to move to other jobs and avoid any layoffs as well. So those were the main things that came out of the deep dive assessment, which would allow me to fully fund Charlotte Mecklenburg schools. They got a total of $37 million with a credit of $6 million for teacher salaries that carried over from the prior year because the state did not approve their adopted budget. So I had a $6 million credit that I was able to carry forward and fully fund CMS, fully fund CPC. And another thing that I'm proud of is our employee investments. The one thing I will call out that I'm pleased to include in the budget with support of the board is every employee in Mecklenburg County now earns a livable wage. That livable wage, thank you for that. This took a lot of discipline and support on my board's part, but I was in the opinion, how can I as county manager ask local businesses here and nonprofits to pay their employees a livable wage, and I wasn't doing that within my own organization. So we were able to change that narrative, and I'm committed each year, whatever that livable wage is, to bumping it up accordingly. And then the rest represents merit increases, across the board increases that my employees deserve. And I was pleased to fund that to the tune of about $53 million in totality. Here are some examples of just some of the sustaining operation dollars. 5.3 for jail operations, a little short of $2 million for maintenance, $3 million for technology, part-time investments, $573,000, $451,000 for affordable housing rental subsidies, and the last number represent contract increases. This slide here it summarizes from a visual standpoint how I was able to begin getting our costs under control as a result of that deep dive assessment. The red line represents our education investments, CMS and CPC. Rightfully so, that number continues to increase. The teal line represents the personnel, the operating costs in our organization, salary benefits. That continues to increase. And this line here represents the other. Initially, before the assessment, it would have increased up to $400 million. Because of our efforts, we're able to begin to get our arms around that. And instead of an increase of $400 million, we're able to cap the increase at $380 million. All right, enhancements. I'm gonna cover the enhancements in these categories here, these broad categories, beginning with key upward mobility investments. In addition to creating Sean Carter's assistant county manager position, I created another position, Dr. Virginia Coble, who is solely responsible for upward mobility. And here are some of the investments that we made in that space. Project Boast, I'll touch on these after this slide. The LaSalle Building Project, I saw your emails, Ken. JCSU, Social Work Pathways, and then there's a couple others I'm gonna touch on after that. Project Boast. This is $1.6 million that the county set aside to do our part in trying to minimize and mitigate the unintended consequences associated with the new transit authority. Because we know that there'll be some displacement. We know that there'll be some businesses that will be challenged with keeping their doors open that are located along the corridors where those rails will be built and expanded. So we set aside $1.6 million to mitigate that. And that effort will be led by my economic development operation. LaSalle project. This is, if I had to flag one investment that I am most proud of, it's this one here. Because one of the things that we do in Mecklenburg County really well is we train up and certify our program participants in the space of workforce development. But when it comes to a job, we fall short of the mark. And I wanted to change that outcome. And the way that I was able to do that is through a collaboration with some community partners with the LaSalle project, which is now known as Urban Spark. This facility is located at the corner of Betty's Ford Road and LaSalle Street in the Food Line Shopping Center. You all familiar with that? Right across from the coffee shop. Very, okay. Small building, however, big opportunities are going to come out of that. You can hold me to it. This is how. What we've done is we've invested $2.2 million to go towards supporting programming for youth in that area that attend Title I high schools. And it starts with working with those youth while they're in the schools, the high schools. And those individuals that participate in those programs and successfully complete the programs will have the opportunity, I have guaranteed slots, for them to earn a high wage job. And I'm talking about $80,000, $90,000 with companies that are located here in the Uptown area, Bank of America, for example, as well as some other companies as well. In addition to those job opportunities, there's going to be support for those individuals to also receive support for college preparation, filling out some of the applications and the other applications. And then there's a mentoring component as well. So this is what that represents. And again, and the partners here, the Urban League, Road to Hire, Europe, New Greater Charlotte, and My Brother's Keeper. And here's the thing. As a community and an organization, we've already experienced successes with these partners, but now it's in the context of Urban Sparks in West Charlotte. J.C. Smith. There's also an opportunity for the county to strengthen its partnership with J.C. Smith. When you think about county government, we're in the health and human service business. Well, J.C. Smith has a master's in social work program. Well, guess what? We're in the social work business. So it only makes sense to establish a pathways program, a paid internship, a paid fellowship with masters of social work students at JCSU to create this pathway for them to gain experience, to get paid, and hopefully join our team in a permanent capacity. And then other notable investments, the Impact Camp. Are you all familiar with the Impact Camp? Anybody familiar with this? Sean Kennedy's camp. Certainly pleased to be a partner here. We provided the $90,000. That's Mr. Kennedy there, myself, and also representatives from True Homes. They are providing over 300 Council Graham students, campers from ages 8 to 13 years old. It's a beautiful thing. They're showing them various industries in terms of giving them exposure. I mean, some of these students, these campers, are holding drills for the very first time. things that we take for granted. The name Impact Camp is very appropriate for this experience here. So we provided $90,000 for that, $74,000 to expand Guardhouse. This is another Pathways program that we were able to fund 8 additional pathway spots. All of that to say, the county has invested over $100 million in jobs and economic development, ranging from Central Piedmont Community to the Arts and Science Council. We recognize how important the Arts and Science Council is in our community. We got Project Boast there as well, and some of the other investments. $4.1 million. This highlights what I've already touched on: Project Boast, Urban Sparks, JCSU, and the Impact Fund. Housing. As I shared with you all last year, I created a new county housing department. It's taken a little longer than I'd like to stand it up, but it's no easy task. Part of the investments associated with housing is we added an additional $4.3 million for critical home repair so that residents can continue to remain in a safe, affordable home. $3.5 million in our homes grants. This is funding set aside for individuals that qualify, that may be challenged with paying their property tax bill. We have a grant that will pay a percentage of that. Outreach, street outreach, Hearts for the Invisible, $1.2 million to support their efforts, like in Catherine Simmons, the Sugar Creek 85 corridor, all those spots, hot spots is what they've been categorized as. That investment continues. Reentry transitional housing, the 2 positions to support my new housing department. That is the department head position, as well as the admin support, and then crisis assistance ministry. Healthy and thriving community, a total of $8.2 million to support the operations of our new behavior facility-based crisis center. 18 new positions in response to the demand in our Health and Human Service Department, our DSS Social Service Department. I included 18 new positions there. A total of about $800 million for legal advocacy, victims of human trafficking. Shameless plug, the Black Men's Wellness Day. Anybody going there Saturday morning, please consider going to that event. Get tested. I'll be speaking there. It's a very important community-wide initiative. Behavioral Health Mobile Crisis Team, Metroline Association for the Blind, $528,000 for community support positions, $413,000 for age-friendly Mecklenburg County, in other words, investments in our seniors, and $393,000 for our youth and family support services. Parks and libraries. So wanted to highlight this slide because fortunately, everyone does not need financial assistance, such as SNAP benefits, food stamps, for example. But everyone, regardless of what walk of life you're from, have the opportunity to enjoy our parks and libraries. We've invested over $11 million to support parks and libraries, which is inclusive of $6.3 million to maintain what we got. We were getting caught up in focusing on the new shiny stuff, but we got to take care of the investments that we made. So I wanted to be very intentional to invest more in our current state relative to our park and rec system. $2.4 million, a few blocks away from here, we're going to have this new library opening up. So that represents 24 positions to support the new library. Another $1.6 million for new parks, $550,000 for invasive species removal, and $180,000 to support events like the ACC Championship. The county also partnered with others, the city. Council Brown, really appreciate your leadership for the Stellar Awards that was here this weekend. You can clap, so hope that hope you're pleased with the turnout. The county was pleased to be a sponsor in that event there. That's where the funding comes from. And then the Safe and Prepared Community, $11.2 million in funding to support MEDIC. I made it clear to my board that before I take care of any other employees, I'm going to focus on making sure my employees are compensated fairly. In addition to that, I did set aside, with their support, dollars to support medic receiving a livable wage as well. $422,000 to continue to fund a reentry program, and $333,000 to support our election services. As you all know, if you've been watching the media, there's been some concerns regarding our teams and curfews, and the county's certainly been doing our part as it relates to trying to create an environment that supports the teams, the youth in this community. First, by an internship. We had an internship that had over nearly 100 interns from 45 high schools in the area. Some of those teams that did not go to college, because we also employ college students as well. We end up placing them in full-time jobs as well. I don't have those numbers in front of me. We also have the summer jam sessions, hosted 6 events. We registered 1,400 employees. We offered over 200 free passes to youth to come enjoy our facilities. This was primarily at the Eastway Rec Center in East Charlotte. Also team camps, 56 different camps across the community, 7,400 youth served, free swim lessons, and then employment. And particularly, we're able to hire during the summer months, teen-age lifeguards. And that provided temporary and part-time employment for them. So in total, $45 million in new funding in this budget. This represents my board priorities: education, health, equity, wellness, environmental stewardship, workforce development, services for seniors, and economic development, $37 million. When I sit down and prepare my budget, this is my go-to. This is my blueprint. This is what the board has says is important for them. So, before I take my seat, Jack has stood up. I want to give credit to my board because I'm not able to accomplish anything without the support of the county commission. I don't take for granted how fortunate I am to have solid leadership in my board. They don't always agree, but they do come together when it comes to the quality of life of this community. I can stop there. There's some other collaboration efforts I may highlight depending on the questions I get, but that's a good stopping point for me. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. For those who came in a little late and may have a question, you have 30 seconds to ask a question, and he has, we're gonna have to cut it down to about a minute if you can.
I can.
Okay, to answer the question. Our first person with the question, I'll go on with 3. We've got Ken, Dr. Watson, and Winston.
The schools.
Good morning, sir. I first want to applaud you for the presentation and all that you've done, and especially for adhering to the county commission's budget constraints as well as the opportunities. And as you know, there's only one that I really have an issue with. We'll talk about that another time. They say the devil's in the details, and the county commission assigned you to look at and consider that $1.3 million that they designated for the Excelsior Club. And to what extent are we down the road with that?
So the county, you're right, the county's investment for that is a little over $1 million to support that effort. As you know, the building was recently demolished. Council just approved the rezoning of it as well. The effort is being led by Mr. Sean Kennedy and get the other gentleman's name. Yeah, Ken. So the work is underway. Our funding is obligated and committed. We have parameters in place that we can claw back if they don't do what they say they're going to do to protect the county's investment. However, I'm confident that they will follow through in restoring what that building represents in our community. So we're all in, the money's still there. We do have language to protect our investment if for any reason it goes left, but I don't think I'll need to pull on that.
All right, good to see you again, Mr.
Good to see you.
Congratulations on everything. Hey, you mentioned the $36 million deficit. One of the most overlooked areas for revenue oftentimes comes from TV and film. State of North Carolina made, I think, filmmakers spent $113 million in North Carolina in 2025, and about 5,000 jobs. But what type of incentives does the county provide to kind of lower some of those TV and film makers?
That's a good question. We currently, what we don't do is currently provide incentives. However, we do recognize the importance, I'm going to categorize that as arts and culture, including entertainment. As I shared with you, we made a $9 million investment in that space. That's just the county's investment. The city also is investing in that space as well. Certainly, we could do more, we could afford to do more. However, the commitment has not wavered, but specifically to the TV, entertainment, filming industry, we have not made any investments. And as you know, there's a lot of filming that occurs here in Charlotte that we're proud of. But currently, we're not in that space for incentivizing, providing incentive dollars.
Good morning, Mr. Bryant. So you spoke about the importance of culture, and Mecklenburg County actually has a rich history of using culture to bring people together. From Coca-Cola culture jams at parks throughout Mecklenburg County. And I saw the picture of Brady Cole you had in your presentation, which reminded me of the time my mama would drag me to a singing. There were many experiences that created a high morale engagement between Mecklenburg County and its residents. And I wanted to know if that type of communal programming is in your plans going forward.
It is, and I go back to one of my earlier introductions. That is why I created Sean Carter's position, to ensure we have a connection with the community. And he is the right guy to help me build on that as well. And he's working on his framework, as he's only been in the role now for how long?
42 days.
42 days. Slacker. Right? But this is, when I look back and assess my first year and say, okay, Mike, what is missing in terms of what I want to accomplish during my season as manager? It was ensuring that I have dedicated resources to maintain a connection with the entire community. And this is where Sean and his team is going to help me achieve that as well. But you gave me a minute. There was another shameless plug I was going to put out there, but okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Cedric Thomas. Thanks for coming. Thank you. You mentioned the team takeovers, and I'm an advocate for the teams. The police can't do it all by themselves. Do the churches get a tax exempt status?
They do.
Is there any way to put a pause on that?
Oh, no.
If the building's not being used Monday through Friday, how do they get such a great benefit since they're a community partner?
They are a community partner. I hear you loud and clear. I can't touch that even if I wanted to. That's a statutory requirement.
Teenagers ain't going anywhere, you said. We have a question from an online viewer. Greg Ashuto asked, as you evaluate the next CMS budget, how does the superintendent's investigation weigh into your decision making? My property tax allocation for CMS this year went from 1.5 hours for a PR firm, and it's difficult to support any increased request for district operations. That's from Greg Ashuto.
So I respect the question, but obviously I don't know the details associated with that to respond in a way that I'm comfortable in saying that in light of what's going on with the investigation, this is how I would handle it in my budget. Based on what I know today, I'm going to ensure that the county continues to support the education needs of this community. I'm not going to allow anything, investigation, whatever it may be, to distract Mecklenburg's commitment to funding education in this community.
Robert?
Good morning, Mr. Bryant.
Morning.
My question is this: I heard you mention livable wages many times this morning. There's a direct correlation with crime, especially with youth, with how much money is coming in their homes. How much is the current Charlotte livable wage?
Well, the livable wage currently is $25.53. However, you can't live in Charlotte off of that, right? We know that. And we have something called the shrinking missing middle, where you have working class individuals making a decent household wage that still can't afford to stay in this community. Our teachers, our police officers, and they're moving on the outskirts. And even the outskirts, the cost of living is spiking up as well. So we do have an issue in this community relative to affordability and, to your point, the correlation it has on the impact of our teens as well. I wish I have a silver bullet answer. I don't have that, but what I can say is that there is a coordinated effort to work towards addressing public safety concerns, work towards addressing affordability. The county's role in all of that is the creation of our new housing and community development department. And the first thing we have to do when we stand that up is, what is the county's role going to be in that space? Because we don't want to duplicate what the city's doing, what some of the other nonprofits are doing. What is our lane? And how can we be a partner at the table to address those valid concerns that you raised?
Good morning, my friend. To the observer, to Dedrick sitting over there, we are blessed to have this man. So that's what I want y'all to print, okay? He is doing a phenomenal job for this county. Mr. Bryant, now I can play.
Got that out of the way.
I heard you say, because something that is very near and dear is the youth. And I've heard you speak about that, and I know you're very passionate about that. And I heard you say something about 6 million, or I don't know if it was 60 million that you have towards youth programs, and then I heard you say something about teen camps. What about the younger kids? I was told a few years ago that they did an evaluation of some of the program and they did away with it. Mr. Carter, it's good to know you because we need to talk about that. We need more money for these kids for summer programs. Mental health is real, guys. It is real, and we need more programs along the Batesville Road corridor. I don't necessarily agree with what Ken wants in that building, but I do feel there needs to be more community input about that urban project. I hope it works. And please make sure that you include more than just high school kids. It's your college kids should be included in that. And that is my question, Jackie, sit down. Okay. That's my question. Thank you. It's the youth.
It is. I agree. That's good. Thanks for coming out. Those folks over there, they're actually good to me. So those are my friends over there. So I'll give them a shout out. They normally take over the years, not just as manager, but during my budget days and all of that, we go back. Dedrick and our daughters, I'm telling too much, but our kids went to the same jamboree together. So I'm showing this picture here because the point I want to make is this is not what you define in supporting our youth. This is not something that Mecklenburg County organization can resolve independently.
Exactly.
It takes a coordinated collaboration with all of our partners. And when I transitioned into the role of manager, I held several listening sessions, nearly 100 listening sessions with influencers across the community. And that gave birth to this quality of life collaborative that partnering with me was, or is, our superintendent and city manager, Marcus Jones. And I came up with that vision recognizing that if we're going to be an international destination, if we think about international destination, you think about a safe community, you think about a thriving workforce, a strong economy, and others. This is the group that can help me accomplish that. So we're putting in the work. We came up with this placemat that addresses that. The police chief is our new member of this as well. And we are committed to this work to address a lot of the issues that you all have identified. And we adopted the theme of being better together because we recognize individually we cannot move it down in these areas that you've identified.
I'm next. I'm next, and I want to just address the piece, if you could, around the North Carolina General Assembly and the taxes. And if I get a second opportunity, Brooklyn.
Okay, so what Ms. Jackie is referring to is the General Assembly has placed on the November ballot a referendum, a question on whether or not to cap property taxes. Now, who in the room would not vote to cap your taxes, right? However, depending on the parameters, the details associated with that option, which hasn't been defined, I want to be clear, but depending on the details associated with that, it could be challenging for not just Mecklenburg County, but all 100 counties across this state. What I mean by that, the only lever I have to respond to the growth in this community, to respond to the increase in service demand, is property taxes, right? This year I didn't raise them. But that's not to say at some point I may be in a position where I have to consider that. Well, if my hands are tied as relates to how much of an increase I can raise taxes, and I don't have the growth revenue, I just showed y'all, the growth revenue went from 5.8% to 2.5%, right? And it's still declining. I can't go back and cut and reallocate and deep dive my budget like I did this year. I can't do that every year because I removed all of those options. The only option I still have remaining, as the impact of HB1 comes down, the certifications, all those things are tied, is property taxes. So if I don't have that option, then I have to look at reducing services. And the service reduction just won't be on Mecklenburg County, but you're talking about CMS. I shared with you how I funded CMS. You talk about the job and economy investments I made as well. CPC, our other partners. Mecklenburg County can't take that hit alone. So if you want to know what keeps me and my colleagues across the state up at night, it is that legislation that is on the ballot. My hope is that voters educate themselves so they would know what the potential implication is, depending what those details are. My ask is that the General Assembly allow myself and some of my other colleagues from blue-red communities, small, large, urban, rural, to be at the seat when those details are laid out, so we could have some say-so as well. But it is a concern. Thank you for that question, Ms. Jackie.
She asked about Brooklyn. She said something about Brooklyn. You said something about Brooklyn?
She said if she had a chance to ask again.
All right, we have a question from Monifa Drayton, who asks, thank you for all you do for your focus on the West Side. How will the work of the county integrate with the plans of the Alliance?
Which alliance? The Charlotte Regional Business Alliance?
I got a text message. All of them.
If she's talking about the Alliance, they are a representative in this collaborative here. Good morning, Ms. Drayton. Thank you for tuning in.
Can we get a list of those people? Yeah.
Now we have a question from Jasmine.
Good morning. FYI, just another shameless plug. I do have a constitutional amendment card to speak about some of the things, the amendments that are going to be on the ballot. That first one is around property tax. So if you want more information about that, I will bring those in. My question for you though, I'm looking at where the money goes, and you mentioned it earlier. I'm curious, where do the Board of Elections fall in where the money goes?
The Board of Elections, they're aligned to we call it growth and sustainable communities. The Board of Election is under the authority of county government, so.
Government facilities?
What are you looking at?
Your handout right here.
Yeah, I could tell you which category it is. It should be admin and internal support. I need to confirm that though.
Go ahead, Dr.
Good morning. Good morning. Over here. Good evening, good night.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Mike, for giving out grades and stuff to employees. It's 30 years I worked there, and we really needed it. And so let me just say this real quickly, because Ms. Ira and I we're always on the same page. And you talked several times about at the table, at the table, at the table. So I'm gonna ask you about being at the table. And so she focuses a lot on youth, and I focus a lot on seniors, and youth. But because you gave 90K to the Impact Camp, I mean, that's fine, well and good, but we do have a lot of other organizations out here too. That's one concern I have. And then the other concern I have is that sometimes we don't put a lot of the people that we need at the table. So when can you start putting us at the table?
Yeah, well, in addition to the funding for our youth, as I mentioned earlier, we did fund over 40,000 in new dollars for our seniors. One of the programs that I'm really excited about this new program is going back to the theater question, where we're funding a program where grandparents can attend theater with their grandchildren as well, in terms of creating different opportunities and experiences. And that programming won't just be unique to Uptown, but we're also looking at leveraging some of our facilities as well. As it relates to opportunities, this here, there's several opportunities for you to engage with us, beginning with our boards and committees here. We have more than 400 volunteers that are currently serving on 49 advisory boards. We also have our public meetings and hearings that I know several of you come to speak at as well. But I would say in terms of having a seat at the table and influence on decisions made in the county, you should give strong consideration to joining one of our advisory boards. Our county commission takes them very seriously. They have an opportunity to present at least once a year to them, and they listen, and I listen, and oftentimes it influences what lands in the budget as well. So that is what I would highlight in terms of your opportunity to get involved and engaged.
I'd like to announce that we have 11 questions, and we only have about 15 minutes, so shorten the questions, or we'll have to have some folks not speaking.
And quickly, Monifa replied, the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance.
Yes, they are a partner. They're involved in that collaborative that I referenced earlier.
All right, Charlene.
Good morning. Thank you for the awesome presentation, which we've seen so many times before, and I'm excited for your position. I have a bunch of questions, but golly, I'm gonna have to narrow it down. I want to make sure that the grants and the operations of the dollars that you're speaking of, is there a more cohesive breakdown of those millions of dollars that you said that you've allocated? because a lot of times funding sounds good with the M behind it, but we see so little of it out into the communities as well as the CMS.
Okay,
And I'm
their breakdown.
Okay, so I would
When you
like
say grants, are you talking about our nonprofit program?
the nonprofit programs, your
Okay, so-
operations.
It's a good segue. So, one of the things that we did in our organization is we pressed pause on our community service grant process because of some of the fiscal challenges that we were experiencing. And also, we wanted to reset the process as well, to overhaul it, take a look. The current process, it outlived its life, and it was time to rethink how we fund our nonprofits. This year, we are bringing back the community service grant process, our nonprofit program, right, that's the green box. However, it's gonna be targeted. As I mentioned earlier, I recommitted our organization to performance management, and that is supported by a balanced scorecard. And what that scorecard helps me do is identify how we are trending with our investments. What are the results? What are the outcomes? And in those areas where we're not trending favorably, those are the grant applications that I will be soliciting for, is partners to help us increase our outcomes and outputs associated with certain areas in the scorecard that are not as favorable. So that program will kick off in October, and it will impact the fiscal year 28 budget. But in terms of looking at our current funding, you go on our website, the Office of Management and Budget, click on fiscal year 27 budget, and there's a page that outlines all of our investments and grants.
All right, we have Nigel, Danielle, Mr. Patton, and Councilwoman Owens.
Hey, I'm Nigel Malone. I really appreciate you being here with us today and your transparency. I have a question about the property tax because I want to learn more about that. You know, with the programs that allow homeowners to defer their property tax in other states, when their property tax burden exceeds 3% of their income, and the grants you mentioned where we can defer property tax payments if that's a burden for you, especially with all these new people moving here, what is the benefit of capping a property tax if property tax is a majority of the budget?
You said it. I agree with that. Well, thank you for that. And the reality is, there's already a cap in our property taxes. And Mecklenburg County has one of the lowest property tax rates in the entire state as well. You're right, there are programs, our homes programs, there's other programming for seniors, veterans, and disabled individuals to receive some assistance with their paying their taxes. I have the perspective, which is shared by my other colleagues across the state, is that's where we should focus on, is increasing those limits to support those individuals as opposed to property taxes as well. Do I have 30 seconds to say? Okay.
Danielle.
Hi, thank you. You mentioned some underspending in childcare funding due to a third party. So at the same time, we know that the demand for childcare in general, before and after school care, is significant, especially with 157 people moving to Charlotte every day. How is the county ensuring those available dollars actually reach families, that residents know these resources exist, and that we're identifying and mitigating barriers that families may experience in preventing them from accessing these funds?
Great question. I share your concern. That's what we're looking at. So I'm gonna get a little technical with you, but what we did, the 3.4 that I referenced, we encumbered that, meaning we set it aside to ensure that that funding is available once we resolve those issues with the third-party administrator. My team is looking into that. Once it's resolved, we can then spend that 3.4. And then also it allows me time to reassess how much we should actually be investing. So the 3.4 from the prior year, fiscal year 26 is there. But because of that, I was able to reallocate the dollars in fiscal year 27. So that's how I was able to make that work, but also maintain the funding once we address those issues. And that's why I was very intentional in saying that the need is there. We know the need is there. We just need to work through some administrative challenges that we've been having over the last several years with that.
Mr. Patton?
Yes, my question is regarding some of the pauses that you indicated on capital improvement projects. I represent the East Charlotte area. We have two major projects that are in the pipeline now, such as the Albemarle Road Library and East W.T. Harris Library, East W.T. Harris Park. How are you going to work through that process to make sure that you're going to prioritize in terms of community needs to make sure that certain areas are not left out? A lot of our resources now go towards municipal service districts.
Thank you for the question. Very nice polo, by the way. So the short answer is, although I press pause, there will be no gap in terms of timing and planned capital projects because our assessment is underway now. And the reason why we took a pause is we have these community resource centers, the Valley Woodard Center, the L.B. Scarborough Center as well. There's two that we have. There's a third one that is planned, and there's two more that are scheduled. Well, when we designed and came up with that model 15 years ago, the cost was significantly lower. The demographic location of those individuals that we need to serve has changed since that time as well. So from affordability and business need, we're stepping back to look at that because what we have seen is an increased demand for our regional park centers, such as Eastway, North Regional. There's an interest to see more of those across the community as well. So I'm stepping back to look at our cash flows, to look at need, as well as affordability, to ensure that what we move forward with that is planned even into next year is still warranted. Those two projects that you mentioned, they won't be impacted. It's more so looking at, will the CRCs look the same? The community resource centers that house our health and human services, will they look the same as Valley Woodard and L.B. Scarborough, or will it be something different? And or will it be a regional park in South Charlotte, in West Charlotte? Those are the things that my board have asked me to look at, and we're reassessing, and that reassessment will be completed in a timely manner so that we don't lose any time associated with building our projects.
Councilwoman Owens.
Good morning, Mike. Always good to see you. I appreciate the collaborative relationship that you have expressed and I've seen play out with our city manager. As recently as yesterday, he expressed belief that his job would be easier and he would be able to get more done if we moved to 4-year terms. Do you have a point of view with respect to your commission and how the frequency of elections affects that continuity?
Well, I'm not going to comment on that as an administrator. What I will say is that we are one, I believe, of 2 commissions across the state that still have a 2-year term. The impact on me as an administrator, I agree with our city manager from a continuity standpoint. However, I'm able to manage through that because I have established board priorities that I shared with you. We have strategic plans as well. And whether it's a 2-year historic, I've been in the organization over, as I said, 23 years. And over that time, with respect to having a different cohort of commission, the priorities for the most part have not changed. 1-year education may be number 1, affordable housing may be number 1, but in terms of the top 5, that continuity is there. And it's important, in my opinion, regardless, respectfully, who's in the seat at the dais, that they allow me time as an administrator to put in place the initiatives that they have tasked me with. Otherwise, it's hard for me to say, okay, 2 years in, let's do something new. That's not a good use of resources as well. But just as an administrator, I don't want to weigh in on what's best for them.
Good morning. Mr. Bryant, I missed your entire presentation. I had a responsibility. You just answered the question I was going to ask, though. I was going to ask you about the example of the Eastway Regional Center and the North Regional Center. If there was going to be something like that. I've heard Tuckasegee Rec Center may be converted to something. I'm a former Mecklenburg County employee, CMS employee, and was a lifeguard at the old Double Oaks pool. And I'm swimming presently at Cordelia because the aquatic center is doing maintenance. Cordelia is the only one left out of Revolution and Double Oaks. Just want to make sure what is happening to bring about something of the facilities like Eastway and the regional for areas of the west side or near Tuckasegee or whatever.
Yes, so that is part of the assessment. Tuskegee is being renovated. Plans are underway to renovate that facility regardless of what we place on the west side, whatever the outcome is of this assessment. But part of that assessment is the feasibility of placing regional rec centers in the other gap areas. I can't say whether or not we're going to do that today, but that is something certainly that my board have asked me to take a deep look into.
Thank you for being here, sir. My question is kind of to go back to the picture that you had about connecting with those individuals. We say that we're better together. I love that mantra. I've been in Charlotte for about 20 years, and for the life of me, I have not been able to figure out what's going on in the west side. I've seen every other corridor essentially go up and through the sky, aside from Davies Ford Road in that area, right? And so as we're boots on the ground and we're trying to communicate with the individuals who own that property, as we see the other investors that are much larger than us coming in to buy it from underneath our feet, we're going to participate with those groups that you're showing there. What's the best way to approach it? What are some of the initiatives that you're seeing that we need to push forward in the West Corridor?
It's a good question. Number one, there have certainly been coordinated and individual efforts to address the west side. Some of them unfortunately have not materialized like we would like to see, and others are still underway as well. So I get it. You see growth on the west side, look at Uptown, you look at other parts of the community. You want to see the same thing there. And there is a focus in that area. However, there's challenges too. And I can only control the controls that I have. And there's a list of investments that we made as an organization. The city have made some investments as well as it relates to housing. Eventually we'll get there. I think these coordinated efforts will see the growth. I think there's a stronger focus on that part of the community as well. It's going to take some time depending on which investment that it is. And once it gets going, I think it will snowball from there. But I am optimistic about what is going to happen in West Charlotte.
Hi. Thank you for your continued investment in our libraries and public spaces and for recognizing their importance to the community. You mentioned social workers in the housing crisis. Libraries in particular are central community hubs and a vital resource for people of all walks of life, including navigating like housing instability and mental health and other needs. What can be done to expand access to social workers and other trained professionals in libraries and public spaces where people are already turning for those resources and assistance?
Well, there's huge opportunities. I do look forward to talking with our new library CEO, Angie Myers, about that. She and I have a really good work relationship. And I'm sure we'll be meeting in the near future to come up with some opportunities, one to build on, which you're currently doing in that space along with workforce development, but also explore some new opportunities as well.
Manager Bryant, we're so happy to have heard all of your presentation today, and we'd like to give you 1 minute to wrap up.
Okay, well, first, I want to thank the elected officials for being here. I really appreciate you all being present today. Thank you for the work that you all are doing. We're all public service, right? We're in this work together, and those that may be viewing online. I want to just thank all of you for your engagement. You know, the room was packed the last time I was here a year ago, and also today. So this is how change happens. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. With our elected officials, my bosses, they are listening to you. We can't do everything overnight, but this is how change happens in forums like this. So I'll close with that. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to come back any other time as well, and I wish you all the very best.
Before you speak, can you just say 1 minute, since we've got 1 minute, about Brooklyn?
About Brooklyn. Brooklyn. So, at the August 5th board meeting, and you can go take a look at this agenda item on the manager's report. Phase 1, there's 3 phases of Brooklyn. Phase 1, the individuals that took ownership from the previous owner, first and early, presented to the county commission to share the discussion that I had with them regarding moving that phase forward. That is a huge victory for this community. Now, we still have a ways to go, but things are shifting because we have been in a holding pattern for so long that finally one of the phases has an opportunity to move forward. And I am committed to maintaining the history associated with Brooklyn Village in developing that phase 1, as well as those owners. They're local, they're from here in Charlotte. And then phases 2 and 3, as I understand, and it's now been reported, there are some legal matters that need to be resolved on that. So I can't say nothing more about 2 and 3 at this point beyond that. However, phase 1 is moving forward, and that's a huge victory for us.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Y'all have a wonderful week.
Yeah.